So now that you're familiar with applying stylings to classes and IDs, we're going to apply those styles to a group of HTML elements. And the usual way to do that is to split them up inside divs. So div is just short for division. And let's say for some reason I wanted to take those first two paragraph tags and split them into a separate div to the rest. I'll try and get my indenting nice. There we go. For now, I'm going to take away my classes for those as well. So you can see in itself, the div doesn't do anything. It doesn't apply any classes or make it look any different. But if I apply a class to that div, I might want to give it a class of first section. And notice I've used a dash there, not a space. You should never use spaces in your class or ID names. And in fact, I think I'll make that an ID because there's only going to be one first section. So it makes more sense to give it an ID rather than a class. So then I might want all the text in that first section to be blue. So can you apply that for me? Make all the text in the first section div blue with just a single CSS command. Go for it. All right, hope you managed it. It's an ID, so we're going to use hash and then first section. Then we add in our curly brackets, and then if we want everything to be blue, we just use color colon blue. There we go, and then that will style everything inside the first section div as blue. So that's one way of using divs to style the contents, but we can also apply the style to the div itself. So let's say we wanted a pink background for some reason in this first section. Then we could set the background color to pink. There we go. And then you can see now we've got a really separate section to the rest of the page. And you can also then see the limits of what the div is. So the div is that box, which goes all the way across the page and contains those two paragraphs. We might want to also change the width of this div. So rather than go all the way across the page, we might want to go halfway across the page. And we do that just using width and 50%. That would take it halfway across the page. There we go. We could also set the width to a certain number of pixels. So if we made it 100 pixels, for example, px, then that would mean that the text would start to go on to multiple lines. And that's more or less all there is to it. We can use divs to apply styles to the contents of the div, but also to the div itself, like this background color. So very quick challenge for you. Can you put a div around the third paragraph tag and the H1 and then give them both a yellow background? Go for it. All right, hope that went well. It should have just been something like div, and then you could have done it with a class or an ID. I'm going to give it an ID of second section. That seems to make sense. And then I'll close my div after the H1. And I hope you did your indenting all nicely. And that's all we need in terms of HTML. So to apply the background, we just use the hash and then second section to select that div. And then we want a background color of yellow. There we go. So we're still a fairly long way from beautiful websites, but we're coming on quickly in our ability to apply a range of styles to different objects in groups and with classes and IDs. So I hope this is all making sense so far. We're now going to look at specific stylings, how you achieve certain effects, and we're going to start in the next video looking in more detail at color.